Welcome back to the last segment of this tonight's show. And as alluded to before the break, we're going to talk a little bit about MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Distress Syndrome. And if you know, Pahrump may not be a destination area, but certainly Las Vegas is. And the key to Middle Eastern Respiratory Distress Syndrome is that people who have recently traveled to the Middle East and surrounding areas. So if we do have those slides, let's see if we had that. Yeah. It's a camel flu, and it's a coronavirus. It's a very large virus, very extremely large. You can look it up on the internet. But it just started back in certain parts areas of Saudi Arabia because the camels became infected. And as I've said before, and especially with regards to other viruses, the bats seem to have a promotion in this particular issue and a vector in this disease. And this is a little onset about the symptoms. They include fever, cough, diarrhea, shortness, but just like you would get in any normal flu, renal failure seems to be very common, and again, it seems to be more severe in those with other health problems. Certainly if you have some diabetes or something like that because of the renal issues, if you're younger, you're better able to heal those things, especially with diseases like even Ebola. If you're elderly, if you're over the age of 40 and you get Ebola or you get the Marburg virus, which is in the Ebola class, then you will basically have a pretty good chance of succumbing to the virus. Let's look at the next slide. And again, it's a beta coronavirus derived from bats. So here you've got these bats having a link in this virus. They have a link in Ebola. They have a link in a lot of viruses. So bats are, if you remember from the movie Contagion, it was a link in that. So they actually do this virology study where they actually can look at the virus and they can do the DNA segments. They actually know very, very quickly when they isolate a virus where its origin comes from. It's very unique in now how they can actually get these illnesses and they can actually determine where it's been and where it is involved, and it's a very unique science with regards to viruses. But anyway, camels are believed to be involved in the spread of the humans with the virus. And in the Middle East, it's camel meat and milk products may be infected. So again, the same thing was happening in the Africa with regards to eating monkey meat that might have been infected with the Marburg virus. They basically don't cook it well enough. It may be somewhat raw. And then again, you've got the virus that exists in those particular animal products, and they infect the humans. So let's go back to the slides. And again, obviously the spread between humans is typically requires very close contact. It is not a very big contagious disease between humans. It's something that may or may not happen, but not like Ebola, which one virus particle can cause an infection. That's not necessarily true with this. And it spreads as common in hospitals because of the close contact, and the risk is globally. It's deemed to be current, meaning there's a lot of active cases, and a lot of them showed up in South Korea, and it depends how many people move over from and carrying it. As you know, our global transport system with airplanes and things of that nature make viruses that are in isolated geographic areas very transmittable to without the world, and those are part of those issues about being prepared for disaster preparedness and things of that nature, and having those supplies ready to be able to handle some pandemic that could take place at any particular moment. So let's see, I think there was one more slide associated with that. And this is some current issues. 1,000 cases have been reported since May 2015. And it does have a high percentage of mortality. with about 40%. And the first identified case happened in 2012 in Saudi Arabia. And most of them, again, are on the Arabian Peninsula. The first infected person in London in 2012 was found about 100% match with the Egyptian tomb bats. And that's what I was talking about, the fact that they could actually analyze the DNA of this virus and trace it back to its origin, who had it, where it came from. And again, of course, there is this large outbreak in 2015. And just for information, the MERS has an estimated incubation period of 5.5 days. And that really concludes the slides. And so you may not hear anything about this on the news. It may be something you have to go to the CDC website to actually ask questions about, mainly because of the Ebola issue, like Ray was talking about earlier in the show. We are basically kept like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed a lot of crap. And so this information highway through the news media and things of that nature they shut down a lot of the Ebola stuff to avoid panic in the population and in the public. And the same thing is true with any of these particular viruses. They may shut down some, and they place a lot of us at risk because they don't want us to panic. And obviously, the key to panic is just not let the fear run wild with you and analyze the information before you make irrash and quick decisions, if you certainly have time to be able to analyze that. And I think with regards to infectious disease, you certainly do. So I don't like the fact that the media has poison people's minds with regards, and I alluded to that with in the last show with regards to Cheerios and oatmeal, how it's good for your cholesterol, and how it's good for your heart. I mean, it's absolutely crap. It absolutely does not make sense at all. A good balanced meal with types of activity is extremely important. And remember what I said about nutritional essential nutrients, those nutrients that your body cannot make, the essential amino acids and the essential free fatty acids, the omega-3s and the omega-6s. Those things are so important in your diet, and if you have those things in your diet and you start your day out with them, you'll be less likely to search through the carbohydrate factory to get those. And what that means is that, again, you will try to, if I surround all those essential nutrients with 300 grams of carbohydrates, you are going to basically eat all of that to get to what your body needs. So it's very important for you to realize that if you start your day out right and don't eat carbohydrates, but eat protein and eat the right amount of stuff like eggs and other things of that nature, you actually will be much, much better off as the day goes forward and less likely to be hungry. And the other thing that's making me sick lately is last week, I got a call from another pharmacist in Walgreens in Vegas. A patient from Pahrump went down to fill their prescription for an opioid medication in Las Vegas. This little pharmacist decided to give me a call and start asking me questions about this patient. When the patient was treated, when the last time they had x-rays, when they had other information, had they tried any alternative treatment, information that is absolutely nonsensical for a reasonable prescription, and talked about the different medications and even alluded to the fact that they might get high off of that medication. And that was very presumptuous upon them. So this all goes back to this stinking DEA raid, which, Walgreens spun it around and the public is not aware of it. And they call it their, quote, good faith dispensing, where they ask all of these questions. And they went from, not asking any questions to seeing a 300% increase in their opioid population. And the DEA went out there and cited them and fined them $80 million because they were a danger to the public. I mean, any pharmacy that sees a 300% increase in opioids should at least ask a question: why am I dispensing 3 times as much of this product as I was several months ago? And that's the due diligence that the Drug Enforcement Agency expects. Remember, the DEA license, or my license to prescribe opioids or narcotics and controlled medications, is a privileged license. And with every privilege, it is not your right to do it the way you see fit. There are rules associated with that. Even having an MD license is a privileged license. Having your driver's license is a privileged license, and it's not your right to do it as you want. And there's a big difference between rights and privileges, and if you don't understand that, you really should. And I know Ray, he's out on the street all the time talking about your Bill of Rights, and it's very important for you as the public to examine your Bill of Rights and to know what your Constitution says. Our government is slowly stripping away those freedoms that we have, and they're doing it very systematically. And you cannot know what has been stolen from you or taken from you if you don't know what you had in the first place. If you don't count your money every day and someone sneaks into your house and takes half your money, how would you know if anything was stolen? And you absolutely would not. So, one of the things I encourage you to do is to examine the Constitution and examine what your rights are, and know those rights, because they're the only thing that you have. And if you don't know them, then they can be taken from you, and you would be blind and stupid, and you wouldn't know any difference. So it's very important for you to know those issues. And that's my little political rant for the day. And I hope some of you took the time to examine the petrodollar system and understand how big oil and big money has destroyed a lot of our currency, and has made it harder and harder for you to make a living and stay on top of all that. Now, I'm not a financial expert. I don't claim to be. I'm a physician, but I do read and I do get information, and I think it's very important for you to not only read about all the medications you're taking and all the side effects. I love an educated patient. I hope you get your knowledge from a good source, and if you can't find that out, let me know. I will help you. But an educated patient is a compliant patient. There are a lot of people that don't understand why I tell people to do things, and they don't ask the right questions, and so therefore they basically don't have the knowledge of why certain things are done. When you know how it's done, and then you'll know why it's done, and then you're more likely to continue doing the therapy that was. And right before the show, I did a little interview on the medical marijuana card, which I hope will air on the news. And I am one of the physicians in town that do the marijuana card, and we can talk about that on another show. So that's it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in tonight, Pahrump, and I'll hopefully see you here next Monday night, same time, same place.